Hey everyone, today we're going to discuss about the truth values of a compound proposition. So whenever we talk about the truth value, it is the truth or falsity of a proposition. So here we determine whether a statement is true or false. Since remember, the proposition can only be either true or false, but not both. So in order for us to determine the truth value of a statement, we make use of a truth table. The truth table can be used to summarize the truth values of a proposition. So let's consider here two propositions. Let's say proposition P and Q. That will be our statements. So there are four possible combinations for P and Q. It could either be P is true and Q is true. Or it could be P is true or Q is false. Or P is false, Q is true. Or P is false or Q is false. So that's our statement. So P could either be true or false, Q could either be true or false. So the combinations would be like this. So what would be the truth value of the negation? So if we have P, let us identify what will be the truth value of not P. So we're just going to reverse the truth value of not P. If P is true, then not P is false. But if P is false, then not P is true. Next, if we have Q, we also have not Q. So what will be the truth value of not Q? If Q is true, then not Q is false. If it's false, it's true. So again, if it's true, it is false. Again, if Q is true, then not Q is false. And if Q is false, not Q is true. So that will be our truth value for the negation. Next, let's have P and Q. So let's identify this. So how would we know the truth value of P and Q? So for the conjunction P and Q to be true, both P and Q must be true, otherwise it is false. So we will check the truth values of P and Q here so that we would know the truth value of P and Q. Both P and Q must be true. So in this first column here, P is true, Q is true, therefore P and Q is true. Both of them should be true. However, in this case, in the second row, P is true and Q is false. Since one of them is false, then it follows that P and Q is false. The third row shows the same thing. P is false, Q is true. One of them is false, which is P. Therefore, P and Q is false. And lastly, P is false, Q is false. Therefore, P and Q is false. So that's the truth value for P and Q. Both of them should be true. But if one of them is false, the entire P and Q would be false. The thing would it would be different for disjunction. So P or Q. For the disjunction P or Q to be true, either P or Q must be true. Otherwise, it is false. So the only requirement is that one of them must be true. So in this case, P is true, Q is true. Therefore, P or Q is true, since both of them are correct. For the second row, we have P is true, Q is false. P in this scenario is true. Even if Q is false, we would consider P or Q as true, since one of them is true, which is P. For the third one, P is false, Q is true. It follows that P or Q is true, since one of them is true. Lastly, P is false, Q is false. Since both of them are false, P or Q is false. So this is our truth value for P or Q. So true for if true and true and false, false and true, true. If one of them is true, then P or Q becomes true. If both of them are false, that's the only time P or Q becomes false. Let's have an example here. Let's try to identify the truth value of the negation of P and Q. So we'd like to know how would we know the truth value of this proposition here. So let's construct a table of values. We have P and we have Q. So we know the combination for P and Q. P and Q could be true or true false, or it could be false true, or it could be false false. So let's start first by identifying the truth value of what's inside here in the parentheses, P and Q. Once we know the truth value of this one here inside the parentheses, we will negate that. So let's start first by identifying P and Q. So that would be true, P and Q would be true. True, false, P and since this is and, one of them is false, automatically it becomes false. False, true, since this is and, it is false. False, false, P and Q becomes false. Once we know the truth value of P and Q, let us get its negation. The negation of P and Q. So we are going to look at this column this time. True, false, false, false. We get the negation of this column here. So the negation of true is false. False. The negation of false is true. The negation of false is true. And false again, it is true. Therefore, this is the truth value of the negation of P and Q. So that's it for the truth value of a compound proposition. For our next video, we're going to discuss about the truth values of conditional and biconditional propositions. So I hope you guys learned a lot today. Thank you guys for watching and see you guys on the next video.